What's up, guys? This is James Worthy. Check me out on Industry's Most Wanted podcast with TampaMystic. Check it out.
They all try to come between, on the ground to be seen, buying drugs OD. You know in this world.
Hey, what's going on, man? It is your girl, TampaMystic, and we are live. James Worthy, where are we at?
Industry's Most Wanted.
The big one, not the little one.
I love it.
Speaking of the big one, I've got the king, James Worthy himself, one of my favorite people that I've met since I've been on my journey through this music industry. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Man, good to see you always. Listen, I know that's we had a whole full-blown conversation before we even started.
I know. We always do. Because there's so much to catch up on.
There's so much to catch up on, and I feel like we have great chemistry. You know, we always agree on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So definitely thank you for being here again.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Give us a brief introduction, then we're going to dive in.
What's up, guys? This is James Worthy, producer, songwriter, recording artist, engineer, label owner. I do a lot of different things, but, I'm just a creative, man. Just love art.
He's an all-around dope dude, man. He just does so many different things. And, again, I'm so grateful that you were here today so we could dive in this conversation because, we've done multiple interviews together.
Yes, we have.
We even did one downtown at Crazy Atlanta. That was a great vibe, absolutely. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. So let's start with your name, Worthy. You said it represents your dedication and passion.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you today compared to when you first started?
I don't think it ever changed. I just think as you get older, your values and mindsets may change in certain things. But just me having that name, I think is just very powerful. I think Worthy is a powerful name in itself because it just embodies you being worthy of whatever you put out to the world. You're being worth people giving you that recognition of what you seek after. So,
Absolutely. Was this a name that you gave yourself?
No, actually, James Worthy is my real name.
It is the government name.
Yeah, that's my real name.
We had to address the elephant in the room.
Yep, that is my real name. My mom and daddy gave it to me.
Hey, mom and dad and God knew what they was doing. That is dope, man. Definitely. You were born in Queens, New York.
Yes.
And it's so funny. Going back, remember I had made the comment about people not a mean comment, but I was like, a lot of people say people from New York are very fast paced, sometimes not so friendly. You're like, I'm from New York.
What's crazy? Even though I'm from New York, I don't really feel like I am because I've been traveling my whole life and I've lived different places and stuff. So even though, I could say that I'm from there, I don't really claim it.
Understood.
Like that, Even though it kind of sounds bad, and I'm not down in New York. I love New York.
Of course, absolutely. But if you've lived so many other places and if you've lived other places longer than you live there, I completely understand.
Yeah.
So you've been in Atlanta for how long now?
Ooh, I've been in Atlanta over 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this the longest period of you living somewhere as being here in Atlanta?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Do you feel like since you've been here at all, your approach to the music industry has changed to kind of adapt the Atlanta lifestyle, or has that remained the same as well?
I definitely think it influenced a lot. Of course, me being here such a long time, but just me being a creative person, I've been so many different places. So I just take a lot of experiences and influences from different people and places. So I just kind of implement them, but Atlanta has definitely been at the top for sure. As far as influence.
Do you feel like also having visited many places and living different places helps expand your creative mind?
Definitely. Because it gave me a different scope of how to view how other people live, how their mindsets are with different things and just different environment, when you're so stuck in one place or one area, it doesn't expand your mind to the rest of the world because the world is huge.
There's a lot of people out there. And I think it gives you, a newfound respect for why certain people do the things they do.
Yeah.
And it's okay that people are different than us. They were maybe raised different, maybe some of it we agree with, some of it we don't, but that's okay. You know what I'm saying? We have to respect it. We may not like it, but we're going to respect it.
That's true.
That's really what it boils down to. So let's take it back. Your first steps into the music industry came through a high school mentoring program through Dallas Austin.
Yeah.
That was a pivotal moment for you.
Yeah, it was.
Tell us about that experience, like how that set the foundation for your career.
Well, at the time when I even found out about it, I wasn't really like doing that much music yet. Like I was just dibbling dabbling. But when they offered that program, I remember they had like this full studio set up in the school, and the first introduction of it was learning how to songwrite. Which I did well in because I was just really good with words already. So just learning the song structure part of it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then later, down the years, they started implementing the production side of it. So just kind of starting to learn softwares and a little bit of hardware too, not too tough, but just a little bit.
Yeah.
So it was a cool experience. I got a chance to meet Dallas, one time he came to the school. But overall, it was cool. It was just a cool little introduction to see the process.
Yes.
And, and then after that, I just took it to a whole different level. But
yes,
yeah.
that you have, because you've done so much. Going through the course, and you said a portion of it starting out was for songwriting. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like anybody who's aspiring to be a songwriter should take some sort of songwriting classes, or, maybe mentor with somebody who's been songwriting for a long time? Do you think that's important?
Definitely a mentor for sure.
Yeah.
Somebody that's well-versed, someone that you actually respect. Because I'm not really a big fan of like someone going to a workshop or whatever and working with somebody that you don't even know that well, or you don't really respect that well, or whatever. Like it should be somebody that you admire their work.
Yes.
And them just showing you how they did it and showing you a different side of, okay, you don't necessarily have to do it how I did it, but I'm going to show you steps to create your own lane, because that's the most important. Like you have to create your own.
Yes.
Not trying to emulate somebody else.
Absolutely. And like you said, it could be somebody that you aspire to be like, but not necessarily, like you said, do exactly what they're doing. That makes perfect sense, because it's not a one size fits all.
Right.
You have to find somebody that you admire and that has moved in the direction that you're looking to go and shares the same vision as you.
Absolutely.
I think that's just in life, period, because when we align with the wrong people, we talked about this beforehand, things can be a little crazy.
Oh, yeah, to say the least.
Absolutely. So you've had and still have a lot of success as a producer, songwriter, solo artist. Which of them gives you the most satisfaction on the creative side, and why?
That's an interesting question. I would probably say like they all go like hand in hand, because you really can't have one without the other.
Right.
It's just for me, I've used all at different points in time, but somehow they've all came to the same place.
They all scratch the itch for you.
Yeah. So, I can't really say one is stronger than the other, but I will say that I use each to my advantage in certain scenarios.
Makes sense. How long have you been producing professionally?
Ooh, I've been producing professionally since I was like 17, 18 years old.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but like, it's always interesting because like people always ask me like, okay, well, when did you really, really like break into the industry, right? And I could kind of give an answer, but then not really, because when I broke in, like everything was like all at the same time, so to speak. So like I started placing records as a writer and a producer at the same time. So it's kind of like I didn't really break in as a songwriter, then as a producer, like everything just kind of hit me, right? So which it was a crazy time, because like even when I was like younger, like I had mentors that were like legends in the game. I was meeting people that I was already fans of and admired, and them just like showing me stuff. So it wasn't really a thing of like, I had to do a whole lot of digging, which was a blessing, but it kind of gave me more pressure, because me being associated with those people and working with them and doing different things, it put pressure on me from other people to like say, okay, you're here in this space now, you got to prove yourself, you got to show what you got.
Holds you accountable.
Yeah.
Holds you accountable.
That's really what got the wheels moving to really, really turn up the heat.
Absolutely. What do you feel like has been the most positive shift that you've seen from when you started back at 17-ish till now in the music industry as a whole? Like, give us one like major positive shift that you've seen that you feel like is, man, I'm glad that this has changed.
I think like the accessibility, like early 2000s, it was like more gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't as much information available. It wasn't that many platforms as well as far as like music distribution or consumption, even social media. So, you know, it was just a lot of like, you really had to make relationships. You really had to talk to people, see people, travel to people. It was a lot of that. So I think now that everything is more accessible to, you know, you don't even need to meet somebody in person, you know, because they might be on the other side of the world, but you still have communication.
Man, I couldn't agree more, because I feel like, including myself, a lot of people out here wouldn't even be in business if it wasn't for the internet and social media.
Yeah.
I fully rely on my social media. I probably wouldn't be on social media if I did what I do, but I fully rely on it. And it's funny because years back, I had asked the late, great Rico Wade that same question.
Shout out to Rico Wade.
And yeah, long live Rico Wade. And he gave me a very similar answer. He said, it's the information. It wasn't available back in the day. And now you could go to Google, go to YouTube, boom. We all graduated from YouTube University at some point in time, right?
That's a fact. I learned so much from YouTube.
Me too. With you having so many accolades, we're talking Grammy nominations, Billboard charting records. Now you have your own label. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
How do you stay grounded while still, you know, chasing your goals to still continue to level up?
I think it's just continuing to be hungry for it. Like, I'm just the type of person that I'll check something off my list, but I'm always thinking about what's next.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a good thing and a bad thing. Like, a lot of people would tell me, oh, you never bask in your success and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I mean, it's cool, but, you know, I'm always on to the next. Like, how can I do something better or greater? Or how can I be more authentic or more creative? You know, that's just the mind of a creative, you know?
Absolutely. Are you an overthinker?
No, I wouldn't say I'm an overthinker.
Okay.
But I guess I could say I'm an overachiever.
You're a steady thinker.
Yeah, like, because I'm always thinking about, like, how can we innovate things more or make things better?
Yeah.
And, you know, I guess that I do have to, like, take a step back sometimes and slow down and be like, okay, you're doing too much, James. Like, let's just relax and, you know, just take a breather for a second. So, and I've learned that. So, you know, I'm taking my time with a lot more things and not trying to be so fast paced. But of course, in your mind, you're always got some idea and something pops up and you're like, I got to do this. I got to get this down, blah, blah, blah. So it's a balance.
It definitely is a balance. Have you ever had a struggle with delegating? Because I have. Like, I'll be the type of person, I want to do everything myself because I want it done a certain way and I want it done in a certain time frame. So I have an issue with delegating.
Yeah.
I'm trying to overcome that. Has that ever been a thing for you? Or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've had to learn that too.
Yeah.
Is, you know, it can't be, you know, the James story the whole time. Like, you know, you can't do everything, you know, so I've learned that. So now I have, you know, a team of people that I trust and that I enjoy working with, whether it's engineers, whether it's other producers, other songwriters, you know, tech people. So, you know, and the more in depth you go and the bigger you become and the more busier you become, you have to have a team of people that does those things, because it's impossible to do everything yourself.
That is facts. And, you know, I finally have a team that comes in and helps me with certain things, like when I do my mic performances or my behind the scenes. At first, I was, well, can you do it this way? I said, you know what, Tampa, just back off and let them do what you hired them to do.
Right.
You know? And now it's like we have such a beautiful relationship. You know what I'm saying? They come in, they do what they're supposed to do. And it gives me a chance to just sit back and take a breather. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you that because I'm like, man, I've always had struggle with that a little bit.
It's tough. It's tough. I mean, especially running a label, that's first and foremost. You have to have a team because, that's a whole other beast.
Facts. Absolutely. You can't do that by yourself. Well, let's speak on that. You launched Humble Sound Records.
Yes.
In partnership with Sony Orchard.
Yes.
I'm over here
Yes.
getting tongue-tied. What inspired the label's name, first and foremost?
Humble Sound Records. So, humble greatness has always kind of been my slogan for a long time. And, I've always thought that, everybody has some type of greatness within them.
Yeah.
But in order to flourish that greatness, you got to have humility. And those are two things that I've always kind of lived by. And I wanted to implement that into music, of course. So that's why I put the two together, Humble Sound Records. And plus, too, it was something that I wanted people to grasp of who I am as a person and what my company would represent. Because, the artists that I have on my roster are, I guess you wouldn't necessarily say the typical. And even though I work with so many variety of artists, so right now we have, pop artists, we have dance artists, hip hop and R&B, we have more neo soul as well. So, that's the whole premise of the label is variety, but also each artist is very, very humble in their not only their rise, but just their work in general. Like, they just love what they do.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important. Like you said, we have to have humility because if you're on the opposite side of that, I feel like your blessings will always be blocked.
Yeah.
God's going to say, humble yourself,
Yeah, absolutely.
Because in reality, everything we have could be gone in a flash.
Just like that.
Or we could be gone in a flash. So it's like we have to be humble, live in the moment. So the artists that you do have a part of your label, what is it about these particular artists? And I think you said you have dancers as well. What is it about them that kind of like sparked your interest to want to work with them?
I mean, for a long time, it was like kind of vetting who I would want to be on the label as far as genre wise goes. So once I kind of narrowed down, okay, this is where we want to kind of start, then really just a lot of stuff started to just kind of fall in place.
Yeah.
Like a lot of them were artists that I've came in contact with from mutual business people that I've dealt with in the past. They brought them along to me. Some already knew from past work that we've done. So just kind of different pieces falling in place, that made sense. And also, too, I didn't want to be one of those labels that had 1 million artists either, like not 20, 30 different artists. Like, right now we have a roster of 6 artists that's on the label. And to me, that's perfect right now, because each artist is growing. We're figuring out their audience, where people are listening to them at, how can we enhance their brand? And that takes a lot of work.
Absolutely. It's that quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you did have 30 artists, you're spreading yourself way too thin, and every artist is not getting the proper attention they deserve on the rise.
Exactly.
When you keep it smaller, more intimate, like 6, now you can give each one a little bit more attention to get them where they need to go to move on to the next step. So now you can afford to bring maybe a new artist or 2 onto the roster.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, again, congratulations. So are you currently scouting any talent, or are you cool with where you're at in the moment?
I wouldn't necessarily say scouting talent, but we do distribution deals with other artists too, but not necessarily probably signing them as a full act on a label. But we'll give them a try. We'll test them out. We'll put out a single or 2 on them and see how it goes. And If we feel strongly about them, then, you know, that's a different conversation. But, you know, we definitely work with other artists.
Got you. So the distribution deal, would it be through Sony Orchard?
Yes. Yes.
So for any artist out there, because I feel like there's still a lot of artists who don't understand what a distribution deal is. Do you mind briefly educating them on what that would look like?
Yeah, so basically distribution deals are kind of what the word is, distribution, right? So distribution basically is making sure that your releases are on all digital platforms, you know, your Spotify, your Apple Music, your Pandora and all that. But the difference is there's so many different distributors these days, but each one is different in a way. Like, for example, a DistroKid or a TuneCore or United Masters, those are like your standard distribution platform. So they'll get you on the platforms for a fee, of course. But just like a lot of them, you're paying for it to stay there.
Yeah.
And if you don't pay it, then your music is gone.
Yes.
Right? With us, is not that situation. This is a thing of if we like the product, your product will stay there forever. Now, also with major distribution, you have access to so many other platforms that you may not even have heard of that are distribution platforms. It's like as far as like DSPs go, a DistroKid or a TuneCore may not have those same stores. They're very limited. Yes. So, you know, that's kind of what it is in a sense. But with us, we're very technical. Like I have a whole tech team that deals with metadata, with data, period, making sure that everything's encoded properly, making sure that the SEO is where it needs to be. So, you know, we take it very seriously when we put out releases through the platform.
That is so important because a lot of artists are missing out by just simply not even having their MP3 properly coded and labeled. Like, I deal with that often. They'll send me their song and they want it in radio rotation, and I go into the properties and it's blank. Yeah. And I'll tell them, you know, just to educate them, if you send a record out and it's blank, it's not going to ever register. Like, you know, with DJs on Serato, they now have a deal, I think it's with Tidal maybe, you know, where it counts towards your spins. Yeah. If it's not properly labeled, it doesn't even matter. Like, you don't ever want to leave money on the table.
And that's just the small piece of it.
We
didn't even get into the whole PRO stuff.
Exactly. And people don't understand. There's so many ways to make money. Yeah. I tell artists, if you go do a performance somewhere, check to see if that venue is licensed with BMI or ASCAP, because you can get paid through your, you know, PRO for stepping on that stage. Yeah. They don't know these things. And that's why I like having these type of conversations, because it could change one or it could change 100 artists' lives. Like, I didn't know that, you know, and then oftentimes, depending on what it is, like a sound exchange, they'll go back retroactive to look for royalties for you for 3 years for digital streaming radio. Yeah, absolutely. Don't leave that money on the table.
Yeah, you know, and it's just so many platforms to make money. But, you know, even past that, like, you got to want to do it. Yeah. You know, like, it shouldn't be us reiterating that you should. You know, it should be a thing of you want to do this, you want to take your brand seriously, and you know, it's like, look, you want the money or not? You know, This is your art. This is what you do. Like, hey, you got to handle your business.
What would be, we'll say, the top 2 to 3 things? Say I'm an artist, right? I'm this rapper or I'm the singer, and I come to you and say, I have this song that I want to distribute through your company, through your label. What would be like maybe the first 2 to 3 things that you're going to look at to see if I'm a good fit to work with you and for you to distribute my song?
Well, first and foremost, it has to sound great. The quality has to be right. Yeah. And meaning that mix has to be beautiful.
Has to be mixed.
That master has to be beautiful. Yeah. So that's first and foremost. It has to sound good sound quality and a good product. Secondly is, I want to see, like we already said, is it coded properly? Do you have the correct information, right? And also, if this is a song that has samples in it, I need to make sure that you got that taken care of, because we are not in the business of cleaning up nobody's back end mess of sample clearances, right? And also, a lot of people don't realize too that if you have features with somebody and you didn't clear that feature and you trying to put out that record, we don't clean that up either.
Man, exactly, because that's something that happened before your time. So you're doing your true due diligence on it. And something that you said earlier, I just want to key in on, is they have to really want it, not be forced to do it. And I feel like some of it is lack of education for some of these artists, but I feel like some of them just don't care. Like, not to sound crude, but they be half-assing it just to get by. Yeah. And that's with anything in business. That'd be like me operating this business, but I don't have a business license, or I don't have an EIN number or an LLC. Like, I'm just getting by. No, you have to do your homework and find out all the things that you need to have in place to properly run a business. And it's no different because music is a business.
Absolutely.
Man.
Absolutely. And again, you know, they have to not only treat it as a business, but you have to treat this as if it's your brand at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And a brand is a business.
Yes.
Besides the music. And if you're not taking what I call it brand equity. If you don't take your brand equity seriously, then what are you really doing it for?
Exactly.
Like, if you don't put anything into it, what do you get out of it?
Goose egg.
There's no because there's no ROI to it. There's no there's just no benefit.
Yeah.
And also too, you know, people would often say that, hey, you know, I need an investor. I want somebody that's going to invest in the brand and believe in me and blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. But what are you doing to prove to them that you're not only worth it, but what's the return? If you wouldn't invest in yourself, why would I?
That is facts, because oftentimes they are way more of a liability than an asset.
And see, that's the problem. You cannot be a liability to not only anybody, but especially if you want some money from somebody.
Exactly.
That's just out the window.
And we see it happen far too often. And this is not to throw shade, but there are a lot of artists who they'll be on the rise and they kind of get right to that point of maybe breaking through, and then they go to jail. And they've had people invest in them, whether it be a label or a straight investor. And that's got to become frustrating for the label owner. Or like if you sign a couple artists and you're working hard and boom, now they get a life sentence or they're gone for the next 20 years. It's like, dang, you know? So yeah, people have to be mindful of how they move out here.
Yeah. I mean, that's unfortunate,
you
know, but also too, like, I feel like there's two sides to it. Like if you're someone that invested into somebody and they went to jail or whatever, they had legal issues, of course, that's terrible.
Yes.
But then if you're dealing with a major label, most of the time they're writing that stuff off.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Listen, as a small business, we writing it all off.
You know,
trust me.
I get it. It's in the beginning, it's ridiculous and it's tough and all that. But at the end of the day, they're writing all that stuff.
They are writing it off. But I feel like, you know, someone like yourself who, you know, has a label and you're probably very hands-on with people.
Yeah.
It would be difficult, you know, not in a mean way. It just, you know, because you have compassion. And you don't want to see someone end up in that situation that you work so hard with, you know, to get them to a certain point. So
yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. Let's talk about this EP, Gip and Worthy.
Yeah.
Shout out to Big Gip. You know, you guys came through.
It's my family.
Absolutely. It went #1 on Amazon, charted on Billboard.
Yeah.
What made that particular collaboration so impactful for both of you guys?
I think it was just the shock value of people just seeing us together.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was just like nobody would have ever thought that, #1. #2, it was primarily R&B and hip hop.
Yes.
And it was new for him as well, because he had never did records like that before. So I think it was just all of that like mixed together, and it was just a 5-song EP. Like, even though people treated it like it was like an album, which is great. But it was just like a 5-song EP, so a lot of people were just like, we want more, like we want a full project and blah blah blah. So it was a great run, you know.
And I remember specifically when he was here, he said during our interview that one thing that he really learned was to kind of like open up, you know, because he'd always done, of course, you know, rap and hip hop, and you know, you're more on the R&B side, and it taught him how to put a different style of music out.
Right.
What do you feel like was something that you learned from him going through that process of putting that EP together?
Well, actually, this is my first time ever doing a joint EP with another artist. So that was just a cool experience in itself. So it taught me actually how to, do a full project with another artist. But also just respecting his work ethic and how he creates songs, So we both just kind of poured into each other and it was no ego involved, just making good music.
Because both of you have such beautiful, humble spirits, it worked.
Yeah.
Can we anticipate a follow-up EP?
Absolutely. We already working on Giving Worthy Volume 2. Yeah. I know that was coming up.
Okay. What can we anticipate different, if anything, on Volume 2 versus the first one?
Ooh, Volume 2 is a whole vibe. That's a fact. It's a whole vibe. It's definitely more up-tempo for sure.
Okay.
Production on a whole nother level, but definitely like more, I guess you would call it like more, I don't want to say pop influence, but just a little bit, but like more worldly music, I would say, but not like super left field, but you could kind of see where we're going with it.
I love it.
But it's definitely a step up from the first installment.
I feel like it's important to have kind of somewhat of that shock factor because that's what makes you stand out.
Absolutely.
Can we anticipate this year?
Yes,
okay.
Definitely this year. But I don't have a full date yet.
Okay.
But we'll announce it for sure.
Okay.
But it's coming.
We had to ask, so it's en route. It'll be here soon.
It's definitely in the works.
Let's take it back a little bit. Your debut solo single called "Move," which featured the legendary Houdini.
Oh yeah.
Man, first of all, how did that collaboration come together? Let's ask you that part first.
Ooh, how did that come together? Oh man, that was an interesting story. So, well, shout out to Houdini. Rest in peace,
yes.
Ecstasy. My mentor, big bro. Really, in a nutshell, I met them through Ecstasy's girlfriend, DJ Deltanya Cannon. And I met her and I met another producer. His name was Rob Beats at the time. And basically, they all kind of ran in the same circles. And Rob was working with me on my debut EP, Blue Leisure, at the time. And he was like, yeah, man, I know Deltanya and I know Houdini, the rap group. I'm like, Houdini, what? I freaking loved him. Like, what? Like, I grew up on Houdini. Like, it's crazy. Like, probably production wise, Houdini's record One Love, that production on that song has always lived with me.
Man.
And I've always loved it. That's like kind of like the standard, like as far as like sonics.
Yes.
So I'm like, what? Houdini. So I got a chance to meet him. And one day I was at Rob's studio and I was already working on the song Move already. It was kind of like almost already done. But Houdini came in and we just played them songs and I just played them that song and they were like, oh man, this is hot, da da da. And X is like, I want to hop on this. Like, I'm like, for real? He was like, yeah, I want to hop on this. I'm like, cool. So we wrote the verse right there on the spot. He did. Next thing you know, James Worthy and Houdini.
Man, that is absolutely like legendary because it's not often something like that organic happens.
Yeah.
That particular moment in time in your career, how did it change your outlook on how you move forward with, was that you got to pop your ish a little bit?
Yeah. Well, it was like that whole time frame was interesting for me because before I even did that single, I was coming off of a single that was top 10 on Billboard because I was in a group with a guy named International Nova.
Okay.
And, we did that one single. The single went crazy, top Billboard charts. Like we stayed on the Billboard chart for like 5 weeks straight. And, once we kind of disbanded, that's when I went the solo route. And then that's when I started working on the Blue Leisure project and Move was the lead single off that project. So everything was just kind of moving really, really fast. and things were just kind of falling in place, and it was just hard to explain. Like I guess that was God, because
God.
it was a lot of that stuff I wasn't looking for. A lot of it I wasn't seeking. A lot of it I wasn't asking for. It just kind of landed.
Everything aligned exactly the way it was supposed to. And gosh, like, if you've seen this man's EPK and the people he's worked with, like, you are so humble. And I see that's why it's titled in your label, because I feel like that humility is brought you to where you're at today and enabled you to work with so many great people over the years.
Appreciate that.
Man, absolutely. You've had Billboard hits, Wine for Me with King X2.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Big EPs, Blue Leisure, Kaleidoscope, the list goes on. We talked about Gippin' Worthy. What do you feel like's been the most defining project to who James Worthy is that you've put out so far?
Defining. I would probably say like Gippin' Worthy is probably the most defining, because it gave a different view of who I am as an artist, but also like implementing another artist. But I would probably also say Blue Leisure too, because that was the introduction to the world as me as a solo artist. And that was a time when I didn't really have a lot of expectation. Like, it just, again, things just kind of happened the way it happened. But that was like my experimental phase, like just trying to figure out, okay, what would my direction be? What would my sound be? What would people think about it? And it was received very, very well. And I think it was also the fact that when I put out Blue Leisure, it was like kind of like a star-studded project, because not only did I have Houdini on there, but I had Tony Terry on there. I had Sona Relay on there. I had Kalina Harper from Diddy Dirty Money on there. So people were like, how this dude's first project ever, and it's like that.
A heavy hitter the gate.
A heavy project. I mean, that year when I put that, because I put that out in January of 2019.
And it's on the platform. So go listen to it.
Go check it out. And it's done so many numbers. It's done very well. Like that year, I actually toured that year off that project. Like, set up my own tour, strictly independent. At the time, I was working with Empire Distribution, and it was just like experimental phase. Like, let's just see how it goes. And then once I found out that, okay, this is working, then that's when I started working on the second EP, which was Kaleidoscope.
Let me ask you this, being that project did so well, and I'm sure it's still doing very well, when do you feel like it's the right time to put together a tour, whether it be a promo tour or if it's a Southeast tour? For any artists out there kind of wondering, when should I put together a tour? When is the right time, or is there a right time?
That's a good question. I don't think there ever really is the right time. I think you just got to scope out what's going on with not only the project, but are people grasping the music? Because I don't think like it would be smart for somebody to go on tour if none of the songs are sticking, or nothing is moving, or nothing is selling, or whatever the case. Like, there's so many factors that you gotta like, see what's happening. So once you kind of do the research, then that'll kind of give you answers.
Absolutely, because sadly I see artists that they'll have a major following on social media, but then they have to cancel dates because they weren't able to sell out venues and things of that nature. So there's got to be a lot that goes into it.
It definitely is. Like, it really depends on like your market research. Like, you got to research, okay, what's my best markets? Where are people listening or buying the most? Not just like winging it, and hopefully people come out to this show in this city that I never really been to before. And because you can't really always rely on social media. Like, you really got to deep dive into every platform to see where people are.
Absolutely, because I feel like social media is not necessarily your core fan base.
No, it's not.
Like, there's people who will follow you just because they want to follow you, but they don't ever like your stuff.
Right. They're not really fans, so to speak.
Exactly.
Like it's cool to have, but like, you got to realize, like, every platform has a different audience and an algorithm. And, you know, like, for example, people always talk about Instagram and how many followers you have on Instagram and blah, blah, blah. But nobody really talks about how many followers you have on Spotify.
That's facts. They don't.
You know, like they'll talk about the stream counts, but you never really talk about how many followers you have on Spotify, because your stream ratio and monthly listener ratio is really sometimes determined by how many followers you have, or, you know, mixed in with, okay, you're on some playlist, or, you know, however people are streaming it from different various points, but your following is what is the main common denominator.
It's funny because I'll sometimes check artists on that, only because like they'll come to me for like radio rotation and they'll say, well, how many monthly listeners do you have? And I'll rebuttal and say, well, how many do you have? What does your Spotify look like? Mm-hmm. Maybe you should check yourself before you try to come check me. Mm-hmm. You know, like not trying to be mean, but it's like, then I'll go to their Spotify and it'll literally say they have like 2 monthly listeners. And I'm like, so what do you feel like you can bring to me to help me increase my monthly listeners if that's a concern for you?
Right.
If you're only getting 2 on Spotify, then what are you going to be able to do for me?
And you know what? I really feel like Spotify needs to take away like the monthly listener count and the stream count, because I think that like that really jades people's perception of an artist.
Yes.
Because it shouldn't be that if somebody has a certain amount of monthly listeners, that makes them better than someone else.
I agree.
You know what I mean? Like
Apple Music doesn't.
Yeah, you can't see any of that unless you're actually into this Apple Music app.
Exactly.
Right? It should be the same with Spotify.
I agree.
You can see it in your Spotify for artists, but it shouldn't be like to the public, like, oh, such and such has this many numbers. Because I just think if they took that away, I think the authenticity of the artist would kind of shine a little bit more.
Absolutely. Or at least have the option to turn it on and off. Like on Instagram, right, you can hide your likes.
Right.
I think that was one of the most best things that they did.
Love that. Yeah.
Me too, because I always, even though, you know, I get decent likes, I always turn it off because I don't want to feel the pressure of like, oh, I only got 300 likes or I only got 400 likes. Mm-hmm. Now Instagram even has it where we can turn our views off on our reels. And I'm like, I like that because like you said, it takes all the pressure away. But we can turn it on again if we ever decide to. Maybe we get a reel that goes viral and we want to show that we got 1 million views on it or whatever it may be. Same thing with our following. It's like, do we necessarily need people to see how many followers we have? Because like you said, it kind of puts a pressure on people sometimes, you know?
I totally agree. You know, and that's why I respect a platform like Apple Music, because they're more authentic with their brand.
Yes.
You know, they're not a platform where you can bot numbers. They're not a platform where you can see all the numbers publicly. You know, they're very, very tight knit, you know?
Agreed. Just like Apple products.
Exactly. So I respect that.
Absolutely. And I think someone else that really needs to get on board with that is YouTube.
Yeah.
Give us the option to turn on and off them views. Like not necessarily take it away, but if we want to turn it off and we don't want people to see how many views hit, then be able to turn it off. But if, you know, it does well and you want to turn it back on, cool. I did like the fact that they took away how many dislikes videos were getting.
Yeah.
I was like, why would they ever want to display how many dislikes a video got?
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's kind of got to be crushing, you know, because
crazy.
people are just for no reason are going to hit dislike just to add to that number. So I'm glad they did away with that. But YouTube, whoever's in charge, I feel like they should have the option to turn the views off if they want to. So there's not so much pressure there either.
I agree.
Because, you know, people are spending a lot of money, you know, buying streams and views just to try to keep up, when that could be money that could go into their marketing budget.
And you know what's interesting now is, especially Spotify, they're really cracking down on bots. So,
big time.
So now it's not how it used to be where people can just spend 2,000-3,000 on millions of streams, and you know, now you can say, oh, I got 2 million streams. Like literally, if you do that now, they're taking every last one of them down. Yeah,
because they're tired of paying for fake streams, essentially. And I remember I had an artist that was telling me, man, Spotify's hating on me. They took my music down. I said, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, and this was not a known artist at all. And I'm thinking, you probably paid for him, and that's why. So I asked him kindly, I said, well, were you using a third-party service to generate streams? He's like, yeah. I said, well, then that's why.
Yeah.
Whether you even maybe he thought it was real, because some of these companies will sell you this.
Oh yeah, they'll make it look good, but you know, it's all bots.
And if they can guarantee you a number, it's fake, because there's no way they can guarantee you. I guarantee that you're going to get 1 million streams. I don't feel like organically you can ever guarantee that.
No,
you know what I'm
can't.
saying? It would take a long time to get to that point of putting you on playlists and stuff. So absolutely. So you've worked with some legends. So let's just name a few. Let's pop your ish real quick. Hold on. Let me get this camera angle over here so y'all can see me talking, because this man has literally worked with some of everybody from Dr. Dre to Meek Mill, 112, Justin Bieber, Bobby Brown. The list goes on. Of course, Houdini and Big Gip from. What do you feel like is one of the sessions from that you had the opportunity to actually be in the studio with one of these artists that really just kind of blew your mind and changed the way you perceive music forever? Take us through one of those sessions.
Oh man, it's been a lot of them.
Because oftentimes artists get an opportunity to work with a big artist, but it's done virtually. They don't actually get in the studio with them.
Right.
One of your studio sessions, which one blew your mind?
I remember I had one short session with Whitney Houston one time.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah, I remember that. That was super crazy.
That just blew my mind.
Yeah, that was super crazy. And Bobby walked in too.
Wow.
That was super cool.
I get emotional thinking about that. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, like even sessions that I've had with his son, Bobby Jr., rest in peace. Great sessions. The session that I had with Whitney was super dope. She's like my auntie. Like I always call her auntie. She that's how she would act.
That's so dope.
But just amazing talent. She would one take everything. Like she did not like ever. I never seen her do like a 5 take of anything. It was a 1 take. Wow. I'm like, wow, like that's crazy.
That's like genius work right there.
And literally almost a whole song, like 1 take. Crazy.
That is amazing. I'm like, you blew my mind with that one.
Yeah, because really that was the first time I seen anybody do a 1 take of almost a full song.
Absolutely.
Of course you got to add stuff on top of it, but like just lead vocal wise, performance wise, knocked it out the park.
All the way through.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned being influenced by certain artists, Tribe Called Quest, Kanye West, even The Weeknd, which The Weeknd's one of my faves as well. The inspiration that you draw from them artists, how does it show up in your music?
That's a good question. I guess in different ways. Like some of their writing styles I admire. Their production I admire. Even their mixing techniques. With their sonics in their records, I admire too. Like I've always admired like The Weeknd's mixing techniques in his music. Yeah. Because like he's always had like that really I call it like wet mixing in a sense of a lot of reverb, a lot of delay, a lot of like just like a lot of silky EQ in his vocals, which I've always thought that was super dope because it made him stand out from a lot of other artists. And then, of course, Tribe, Tribe's production was just always great to me, from Q-Tip. Yeah. Just his way of sampling has always been top tier. And not even just the traditional sampling, like he just knew how to put things together and make it sound like they weren't really samples, so I've always admired that. So, they've all had different attributes that I loved.
Absolutely. So you've collaborated with, again, a plethora of artists, but what's so impressive is it such a broad range. So a quick example is, you've worked with the artists from like Trade Truth, to DJ Luke Nasty to Brian McKnight Jr.
Yeah.
All of them very different, right? How do you approach that? Like when you are working with a Brian McKnight versus a DJ Luke Nasty, which obviously their sounds and their musical styles are so differently, like how do you prepare yourself to approach each one when they're so different?
I think it's just like the energy. Like it's just like, well, for one, I'm super picky on who I work with. Anyway,
Gotta be.
I'm super picky. So, like, for one, like most of the time when I work with people, like I'm already admiring their work.
Yeah.
So I'm already kind of going in with a notion that, okay, I know where you are already. Let's make something new, or let's do something fresh that maybe you haven't done, or let's enhance something, right? So that's just always been my notion. But then also too, I think it's just like a respect factor. Like, I respect them, they respect me, and we're just going in and making something dope, you know?
Absolutely. And I love that. I feel like it's so important to be open to working with different genres, different styles of artists, because that's what gets you recognized on a larger scale.
Yeah.
If you're only working with trap rappers and you're only putting out trap music, nothing wrong with that. But I feel like you're kind of boxing yourself in.
Yeah, I mean, especially these days, you have to be versatile. You have to explore other options and other ways of making music. Like, if you're just going to stay in one box and one genre the whole run of your career, then there's no elevation.
Absolutely.
There's no forward movement.
You've had like some major recognitions and accolades on different platforms like Apple Music, Amazon, Billboard, of course. Which one of them, or maybe all of them collectively, meant the most to you?
They're all great.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's always great to be recognized for your work.
Yeah.
But, you know, I always think about, man, I was a young kid dreaming about this
Yeah.
stuff. You know, I was somebody that wanted to be recognized. I wanted to be great. I wanted to work with those peers or my peers. You know, so literally, I'm still happy that I'm able to do what I do.
Yes.
I'm happy that I could touch so many different people and inspire people. I'm happy that I'm able to create the music that I create, you know, because things can change drastically,
Yes.
very fast, you know. So I'm just blessed that I'm just in the position that I'm at.
That's what I feel like we have to wake up every day and thank God, or whoever your higher power is, for those blessings, because like you said, it can drastically change in a second.
Yeah.
All of this can go away for one reason or another. So to still be relevant after doing it for these years and you're still getting so much recognition, that is a true blessing.
Yeah, and the story is still being written, and it's
still being written.
So much more to do, and so many other things coming. Like, man, like I think you know, I don't want to jump the gun, but I would definitely say that this next run is going to be unprecedented for sure.
Top tier. Listen, I'm excited for it, especially now that I know there's a follow-up Gippin' Worthy project on the way.
Oh, yeah. It's a follow-up Gippin' Worthy, and I'm working on my debut album, which is the Beast. Yeah.
Any little bit of information that you can provide us on that?
Yes. So the album most likely will be dropping this August this year. Shout out to my business partner, K-Rock, aka Rodney Gilchrist. Are you familiar with the group PM Dawn?
Absolutely.
So that's his group. So he has a label imprint entitled Third Eye Recordings, which is under Universal Music Group. So the album will be going through them. And it's just everything that I've done thus far is for this album. Like musically, sonically, lyrically, like this is a concept album of really showing my life in its truest form, from personal to business to career to love. Everything is in this album.
So this album essentially has been in the works your entire life.
Pretty much.
You know, whether it was intentional or not intentional, they're going to really get to know who you are through this project.
Absolutely.
Is there a title for it yet?
Yes, the name of the album is called Never Mind What They Said.
Never mind what they said.
Never mind what they said.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Deep.
It's really like my F you to anybody who had anything negative to say about me, who doesn't like me, who has opinions, whether you like something or not. James is doing what he wants to do. I'm living my life how I want to live it. I'm making the music that I want to make. And that's that.
I feel like it comes to the point where you have to live your life unapologetically.
Yeah.
We will wear ourselves out and drive ourselves crazy trying to please everybody.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It'll stress you out. It'll be the death of you if you continue to do that. We can't, it's just not possible, because no matter how good you're doing in life, you could be doing good, bad, or somewhere in between. Somebody's going to have something to say.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to still come for you. Somebody's going to still have something negative to say, because a lot of people don't, it irks their soul to see your success.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yes.
And that's really the premise of this in a way, is you can't feed into that. You can't feed into the negative propaganda. You can't feed into people's energy that they're trying to project on you. Whether it's good or bad, you have to make your own decisions. But, this is just my way of just being really forthcoming and bold into feeling how I feel.
Yeah. Unapologetically.
This is like my thriller.
Listen, I know that's right. So this has got to be probably your most exciting body of work.
Absolutely.
Because this is your baby. This is your debut album. You've been doing EPs.
Yeah, this is the debut full project.
Man, it's time for that.
10, probably at most 11 song album.
Yeah.
No features.
All
y'all
you
are getting all of me.
Save the features for the EPs and the singles, right?
Yeah, this is all James.
Speaking of EPs, you also had your EP Cups of Coffee, which we discussed on your last visit here.
Yes.
Man, congratulations, because that thing hit the top 10 on the iTunes R&B Soul. For people who haven't had the opportunity to hear it, what was your concept for putting that EP together?
Yeah, Cups of Coffee, another one of my favorite projects. Basically, that was a concept project too. Just basically giving people just a variety of style on there, who may not been well versed in me doing more dance music or more up tempo records. And of course, it had elements of R&B soul in there, of course. But just a bit more variety from other projects that I've put out before.
Yeah.
And of course, had my big brother, Big Gip, on there. And Brian McKnight Jr. was on that project as well. So that seemed to be a fan favorite record on
City
there.
Love is the record with Brian McKnight Jr.
Yeah. That City Love be jamming.
That's the one. That is amazing. Do you feel like there'll be a follow-up for that EP as well?
I don't know. Right now the focus has been never mind what they said. That's really been the biggest focus. And also too, to piggyback off of that, I'm working on my documentary as well, which is also going to be titled Never Mind What They Said as well. So it's going to coincide with the album. And yes, it's I'm letting it all out. Just tell them my story.
Absolutely.
From all the way from the beginning to where I'm at now and where I'm going to be going.
With putting this documentary together, you probably are now realizing how important it is to document everything, because you needed to be a part of that documentary.
Yeah.
How long has it been in the works?
I would probably say I really had the idea to really do it probably last 2 years. But I don't know, just for some reason, I just didn't really think I was ready yet. But now I definitely feel like that story needs to be told. And, not just for me personally, but, just a lot of fans have just been asking, you should do a documentary just talking about your life and your career and how things happen. And because a lot of people always had those questions, how did you do this? How did you do that? How did this come about? And, why this and why that? And, so that's just a lot of what I want to kind of delve into, but also just getting people to understand what led up to this album.
Yes. I feel like those documentaries, for me, are one of the most pivotal, important things that you can do, because I love watching documentaries. One of my favorites was, of course, The Art of Organized Noise. Again, long live Rico
Shout out
Wade.
to Organized Noise, Dungeon Family, all that.
Man, that documentary was so insightful, really showed the beginning stages. A movie I just watched, which was kind of a documentary, was the Bob Marley movie. Man, I love that. I feel like that movie could have been 10 hours long and it still wouldn't have given us everything.
Yeah.
Same thing with you. You've done so much throughout your journey that I feel like it needs to be documented and the world needs to know about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm super excited to do it because I've been wanting to tell a story for a long time. But also too, I think everything is just in timing.
Yes.
And I think this is the perfect time, of course, with the album. So I would definitely say this is going to be an experience.
Absolutely. So you've got this album, your debut album on the way.
Yes.
Documentary on the way. Are there other big goals that you're currently manifesting right now that you don't mind sharing?
I mean, besides that, of course, just growing the label imprint and getting more into television and film as well. So a lot more, licensing, placing stuff. And probably down the line, getting more into the acting bag.
Okay.
Yeah, because I love acting.
I can see you on the. I had to make him act for me a little bit before, and he did a phenomenal job. A+.
Yeah, I love acting.
I think you should.
Yeah.
That would be dope, man. Because I feel like with what you do now in the entertainment industry, it'll tie right on in. See you on the big screen.
Yeah, yeah.
What would be your first character that you would ever want to play? Like, what type of role?
That's a great question. You know what? A lot of people have said this, but I kind of agree. People said I should do like a biopic of somebody.
That's going to kind of lead into my next question. Who would it be? Like, who would you?
And the person that they said that I should probably do a biopic, I don't know if it's like to the spot on, but they said Kanye West.
Man.
Or Babyface.
I could see the Babyface one because y'all kind of slick resemble a little bit. Okay. That's so funny you say that because my next question was going to be, who would you want to play you?
That is a good question. I don't even know. I have to think on that one. That's dope.
That means you got to come back,
Yeah, we got to come back on that one.
That's difficult because I feel like, man, it would take the right person to play because you've done a lot.
It would.
You've done a lot. So, yeah, absolutely. Well, definitely, we got a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, so much going on. Also, too, by the way, shout out to my big bro, Cujo Goody, as well. We got a new joint that's dropping next month, too, called All Night. So shout out to him. Shout out to the whole Goody mob. I got some surprises with them, too. Can't talk about it yet, but it's coming,
Is there going to be a visual coming with the Cujo record?
Oh, yeah,
as well?
yeah. We definitely doing visuals. I got a lot of collabs, man. So y'all gonna be seeing stuff.
That's right.
Just dropping.
Dropping like it's hot.
Yeah.
Definitely, absolutely. Anything else coming down the pipeline in the works that we have not discussed that people need to be on game with?
I think that's everything, man. Just growing everything. It's all I can say is everything is just gonna be dropping like the boom, boom, boom. You're gonna be like, God dang.
Wow.
Yeah.
Real quickly, going back to Humble Sound Records, if there is an artist, because we discussed doing distribution deals, what is the best way for them to reach out if they are interested in having a distribution deal through your label?
Yeah, if you are interested in working with us, or if you're interested in distribution, promotion, anything like that, in regards to the label, just email us at humblesoundmedia@gmail.com. My staff will get back to you, and I'm pretty sure we'll make something happen.
And he told you the things that you need to be prepared with, the things that you look for. So make sure when you come that you're fully prepared, so there's not a whole lot of back and forth.
Yeah, all I can say is we're really, really particular. So, we just don't distribute just anything. So, the song has to be good. The quality has to be good. We need to know the premise of, what this project is. What do you see for it, rather? And then we'll discuss business.
Absolutely, because you worked very hard to build your brand. So you have to be mindful of who you would distribute through there, because otherwise it could tear your brand down a little bit. People won't take you as seriously.
Absolutely.
They're like, oh, they'll distribute anybody. You have to be mindful about that. So if you get rejected, don't take it personal. It just means go back to the drawing board and touch it up a little bit or something. Do you typically, one more question, like if I had an artist that came to you and maybe the song wasn't quite right in one shape or form, would you discuss that with them, what you feel like they need to work on a little bit more?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I would definitely give feedback. I definitely give, just pointers of what you possibly could do to make it better.
Yeah.
Or, also we have a team of engineers, and mastering engineers. So if you need something redone, we can offer that service as well.
Awesome. Where can people follow James Worthy on your social media?
At King James Worthy, all social media, youtube.com/James Worthy Music. Also follow the label at Humble Sound Records, all social media. Yeah. It's going down.
That is going down. Absolutely. Who do you want to give thanks to? And I know this is going to be difficult because you work with so many people, but who do you want to give thanks to for supporting you through your journey?
Man, I thank everybody, man. I just thank all my fans, all my supporters, all my peers. Anybody who just supports the James Worthy brand. I love and appreciate every single last one of you guys. And also shout out to my team. Shout out to my Humble Sound team. Shout out to the artists under the roster, Shina, Sophia Habib, Tanisha Kelly, Robin S., Goody Mob, everybody that's under the roster, BNGB, it's a plethora.
It's a plethora. Absolutely. My last question, of course, where are we at?
Industries.
The big one.
Most
Not the little one.
wanted.
What makes James Worthy Industries most wanted?
What makes me industry most wanted? That I'm just authentically me. I think that I don't try to be anything that I'm not. I'm just James, so what you see is what you get.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you.
I appreciate you. I love your platform. I love
Yeah.
everything that you do. I think you're a beautiful person. I love your energy all the time. We always have great conversations.
Every time. Every time.
Yeah,
Every
so
time.
it's like, family up in here.
It's definitely family up in here. Thank you again for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Peace.
Running up the 4-3. I'm tatted on your mind. Thoughts in your head with the shadows from behind. You wanna feel affection.